I think most humans evaluate what works based upon what worked for them. So the fancy English word is solipsism. We see the world the way we experience it rather than the way that it is. And sometimes that helps, and sometimes that hinders. When you go back to 1800, learning Ojibwe, or really any indigenous language outside of a wigwam village or its equivalent, was unheard of. Of course, today we don't have wigwam villages. If you engaged in solipsism, the only way that works is the way that I saw it work for me. Then there's no point trying anything because we could only send someone to a wigwam village. If you flash forward a little bit to like 1950, well, learning language outside of the home was unheard of. In fact, for those of you who've been around long enough to have spent some time with good, fluent first speakers of the language, most of them said, well, I learned it in the home. I've even heard some people say, the only way you can learn the language is to learn it in the home. But since most of our people are past, our speakers are past the age of making babies and raising them in the home, well, if that's the only thing that works, nothing's going to work. When you flash forward to today, learning language outside of school is actually kind of rare. And so just putting into perspective, I wish I had a wigwam village to offer y'all. I wish I had a vibrant opportunity for everybody to learn it as your first language in the home. But in the absence of robust opportunities to do so, we do have to look at some of the other things that are out there. A lot of people have really done a lot of their learning in schools and programs. We now have early childhood immersion, adult immersion, lots of different things going on. But that is a vehicle that we cannot escape. Kids are going to school or they're signing a truancy petition and your kids are being sent through social service system. And those systems were designed to eradicate our languages and cultures and colonize us. I would argue, for the most part, that's still how they're organized and what they do. And there's more to say about that. But when we look at how do we get these systems, and you can make the cases, like, if you think about the civil rights movement, there was an internal conversation in the black community. Martin Luther King was, let's take institutions used to oppress our heritage, languages, cultures, customs, and communities, like the Baptist Church, and use it as a tool for our liberation. And that was one approach to the work. And there's Malcolm X, who said, screw that, it's all white guy stuff, let's do something of our own. And there were other folks, even more recently, Joy DeGruy and others, who've said, let's re-indigenize black identity and look at healing in a reconnection to roots context. I'm not going to solve that debate for you today. But I think in Indigenous space, we have similar parallel debates about the value of taking tools that have been used for our colonization and oppression and turning them around and using them for our liberation and benefit, or abandoning those tools and picking up ones that our ancestors worked to keep going, or some combinations of the above. I think our kids should know who they are. And the systems that don't provide opportunities to do that are not having a lot of success at getting the kids to any of the markers of success at scale.